nature and karma is real. Nature and karma is real. And what is happening under His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama? I am of the firm belief and conviction. Says Okoniko to Nimna Onya some sense of remorse. No show repentance. Nyankopon ebetimi enwoma mobo. Because I thought that karma, it bounces back at you.
Say young as a now the over feeling, name of feeling. Hey, Juma. Pay for you to attack me. Oh my God, that you get in here for.
I always blame this flooding on the previous NPP government.
When you are elected to lead, you lead. This is not the time for certain PR bloggers patrolling left, right, and center because government wants to score political points. We need answers, and we don't need a government that will pretend to be solving a problem, but then just using chopper to mock our misery. And lastly, we don't elect leaders to tell us our problems. We elect leaders to fix our problems.
You see, this is something and you say, oh my Ghana kurano ya diya mayosem. But when karma start working on you, ube feel sorry. And then remember videos upon videos. Welcome once again to this noble platform. The tragedy is oh my Ghana no. Me say me answer me din komatro no. Me pese me evidences. Last time I brought you John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency. No your former before Baba Mampeni nkomo bia wodi ya ene ekweti wono a. Na sana yo no nkwa o. Sami Jemfi ene CEO. They saying gold board CEO. And someone saw papa no be catch o my Ghana no. And na Sami Jemfi wa he. Sa boy bi o samani bi na your friend hunto no. Ya wono eti or the saying Accra FM sa guy no ye who is that guy? Stupid guy like this. Yes, Mindy at my channels, but this guy nyansa kwatina TV so kachire na na dan go for to say nenkwa akade na nimu ye no me na be. Why? Because of because of politics. This foolish boy ekwatina TV so koka sabi mfreni masem we. That's what you say. Another silly guy enso kwatina ho ekodi nkomo say de ekoso yina no or the blame no be man NPP aban on mo the blame se tun krofo so mo ba ko 2 years ade no amese enoma no mo de ye campaign yina no e de se mo ni me problem o se mo de yes how but the problem is se na mo ni se mo ntimi nya. Why did you take over? As I'm talking to you now, sabi tibonko so fobi e da so de ye campaign. They are still doing campaign with this tragedy way no. Omo so their campaign and NPP also NPP anya me pacho NDC amans NPP ba. NDC omo amans NPP ba. Me nka NPP anya no mo yade o. NPP nso anya de for 8 years. But the question is NDC one amans NPP ba. Asa mo kasa sabi mo dwene nye. Sa samo honto no. I don't know me nim baby wo free. But the baby wo free de e ho adwo pa. Because this silly guy, I bet not be catching another sending fear can no me, no de be ko or because of politics. Ebuzu ya just Sami Jemfi and come obi a wodi ye NDC time or more opposition. Yenti omo come obi omudi ye yenkani na mbom samo hontomo de sa sabi that silly ones no. Yenti omo come obi a omo de sa flooding way no. Omo de ye campaign fight.
What say young as a now the over feeling, name of feeling. Hey, Juma. Pay for you to attack me. Oh my God, that you get in here for. In this yes, or my not is we have a geological department. We have a geological department. And fact department by ministries like Western Housing, like the various municipal assemblies that was of my contract for the silting of drains or one year. They have failed us. The president has failed us. That is it. Now you can Ghana about what the politics there. And the mayan to obey. Yen for the papa so. No when your mind also sa or ye bibi na nya mayan because o man penye bibi na nya na o kan o boneti ya so your politics. It is mayan boneti. Say Ghana ye USA and Minister for Western Housing kwa resign. Kaya ma mi Sicilia da pa or kasa say when you sika na or the baby here juma problem yes because the juma to kakra me yo mu na juma to but I say yan kasa o minus no minus listen. So that is my answer to that aspect of the question. No mind ya na silly. Government officials put in place for solve that problem no. Almost say bob so me sika to solve the problem omonye ya e dey about India we no because omonye if they have done it and a problem na back oh you better say what the problem is. But January, February, March, omanti odomo omanti kolemu. And obi biara watran kinda was in kind flooding situation as no. Only the one ti odono wanti kolemu the flooding baba. Because you should and what they could go and na kogu epunemu. And one simua, you should be afa so asanso abenichi activity flooding. That is the point. And they have not done it. So they must take the blame. They must resign or they must be sanctioned. That is not what they are ticket when they have failed. Now, mobile so man pay so I no problem and people are dying.
I always blame this flooding on the previous NPP government.
Why would you say so? This is a national...
Exactly. I know, exactly. Wait for me. Yes, it's unfortunate we are where we are whenever there was minor or heavy rainfall. Don't forget, under NPP, under the Gary project, Greater Accra Resilience Integrated Development Project, when $350 million was given to NPP government by World Bank to do what? To dredge and make Accra clean. They wasted the money. Do you think if those monies were utilized properly, well, we would be where we are today? Do you know what $350 million could have done if they channeled it to where it was supposed to be? It's really unfortunate that a government will waste monies meant to dredge, gut it and make Accra clean so that we will avert any impending danger whenever there was heavy or minor rainfall. And up to now, we still experience this. Have you forgotten the Addo River? When the NDCs, the part told us that she used $45 million to dredge Addo. When you go to Addo, do you see Addo being dredged with $43 million? Why do you do this to ourselves as a country? Money is intended for a specific purpose, diverted to where.
Obiti say Akufo-Addo. Me say. Akufo-Addo ne nkwa na aka nyina ya nimgu asero ne boko na daka.
Oh, Addo, is that the case?
Ubonu Diana. Mahama left power. 2017. 2017 na nkwa na wiye na Ghanaians were calling for John Dramani Mahama. 8 years of NPP in power.
Nothing.
Ghanaians were calling for John Dramani Mahama. NDC won 2020 election. They know. And some of them have started confessing. Some of them have started confessing. Mahama in opposition was so much popular to the extent say Mahama ko program na Akufo-Addo program wa. Fans of Mahama Benyantina Akufo-Addo say program wa or Mahama be konomo manonko. Baumia was avoiding Mahama. Okoto Mahama official program ase kura na ontimi ntia nsem. Akufo-Addo. Mahama opposition edi na tem no. 8 years. Mahama was relevant. And NDC Baba 1.5 years ni me reasonable Ghanaian. I was say one message Akufo-Addo's government. Now I prefer Akufo-Addo's government to what is happening today. Chireme nipa bako.
NPP for na beka so ma message no.
Chireme nipa bako. Teno wenim guase
FM.
Enim guase sa. Enim guase sa. Aneba. And on one electoral commissioners or one kasi you minimum ko marry as so many or one kasa shall say resign. The chief justice did so. And won to me Akufo-Addo be na catch say Samra boy forest no family kwase in the room and that's what we here. Won to me Alfuo 30 million Ghana cedis no oje no. Akufo-Addo ko ho ekosa fom ho odu ye kura wansi fom. Akufo-Addo knew say won to me as scam Ghanaians because okoye no hu aburo anisi ho. Then so Akufo-Addo as a president because won to me a darling boy Now all resources went to me just to insult Mahama and his family. He kept quiet, making sure they went to me town, and you went to me na airplane bargain. And then he was here. Mahama, as a former president in opposition, Otisi Bejomoa, na Ghana for Emma is Ruby Kutane Bo. Mahama to Ghana and Crawford de Mahama Bo. A man said Joe Bono, your packet sa boni begu a year a cry from my uncle. And I dare you say, Kufuado air exposing her. Attend the public gathering event, said the Mahama na Ghana for by fast abo no mo 5 minutes Kufuado Jubo, or mobile sinabo.
Hey, I know correct.
Yes, and Kufuado Tigana how. Babe Unwa, na ya Polado much the birthday. Near Saturday na kugu ya the camera sin. Ube una na ya Godfrey Dame birthday. Near Saturday na kwatina. Ube unwa na ya Anglican sorry ya si ya sofu. Near ya shenu kunta sa efo. Ya na betina kemu. Uncle public address. Me think Ghana for sabu no me de Mahama se Mahama di obo. Ko mo de sabu no besim aye Kufuado abo system.
Okay, me da say Sami Honto.
After Sami Demfi and Co. Samuel Honto mo ne sa infre ni mafo no ebedi sa nkomo we no. Obre owu bi ba abonte won obedi nkomo bi e we ndio TV. Na na nkomo no emide. Ose so wotu bo boban a esan ba wo so. Ensam ben na nkrofo we ankan fa na nadoda nkokufo NPP aban. These people nkomo ben no mandi. Na na omonim se kama e real kama works. Kama ye adwuma wo. Ghana for na ekasa no kama e ye adwuma. Na owura se John Dramani Mahama enko no kotodua nim no wompa urade acho. Anya sa ensada because dia wo ka kire wo nua bi twitwa wo nua bi nanti ebe di ni position ebe hye ho to wotena na ebusia jibra sa video no nsada nwa ya ba NPP demand for accountability from NDC for na obetin semo share video we mama
na issues on farmer me yam and yourself and nature and karma is real. Nature and karma is real. And what is happening under His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, me I am of the firm belief and conviction says okoni koto dwa nim na onya some sense of remorse, no show repentance nyankopon ebetimi enwo mayi mobo because I thought that karma you dey be you how to bobo dan ya one it bounces back at you. Say ya me kwase ba bi na mitwitwa wo nantini na adwuma a wo ye you free one ye dem betena waka hunu say karma will fight for. And vindication, they say, is in the womb of time. So His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, apart from the physical aspect of Enyama Ekosu, he spoke a lot. He lied a lot. A lot of Enyama or Kangu Abana or Honumu, Bebrena no one him Nakum say Enya no Kureno. He should go on his knee, pray to God for forgiveness, and come openly to apologize to the people of this country.
They're using the word lies and all those things. It's not the best.
Or say Akufuado Abai. Or say lie ni say he told this country.
So Ghanaians are demanding this. Ghanaians are requesting. Say 200 million NPP are buying every akunyoso. What they do for this flood in the sense some of free are buying. So 200 million. Where is that money? Parliamentary minority. Edinkomo. Na Samuel Uku Edinkomo biao. I was shocked. I say, I buy we here to Abamano. So one best solve problems. Not to tell the people of Ghana, to blame the people of Ghana. About Oman no ube this one, and to Oman no blame no. Wouldn't mean yeah, why did you take over? That is a question. NPP better 8 years. NPP got away. Meaning so many be there. But why NPP 8 years no sadi we? The answer they who sadi we. In fact, June 3rd. Na ye John Dramani Mahama preso isi June 2026 June 3rd essentially being we are not politicizing this but it's sad or the saying na ya dwan to busa ye no e den na ekoso amayekonu what is actually happening go for lusu omon kwa for hwere but it's a press conference ya NPP demanding an accountability video.
Under the previous Mahama government, on a single night in June 2015, we lost over 150 lives. Yes. Single night. Then the Ghanaian people asked them to retire in 2016. They spent 8 years studying what the Akufo-Addo government was initiating and implementing gradually. Mr. Speaker, again, they inherited a country where, in fact, President Mahama is one of the luckiest presidents in the world. Your predecessor left a roadmap, completely had gone through a comprehensive review of Accra flooding situation. The Honorable Asenso Boachi, in his statement, clearly enumerated the number of projects initiated under the Akufo-Addo administration. Today, the NDC that took pride, solace, and comfort in politicizing every flood situation in Ghana from 2017 to 2024 is today playing the role of John Paul II, our Pope, late, and behaving as if Ghana only started in 2017. Mr. Speaker, behind the statistics we see on TV are human lives being lost. People have lost their livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, somebody might have gone for a 2,000 CD loan. Today, that money is gone. I have seen a wonderful video of my good friend Felix Kwachofosu during the floods with his staff when they were cheering you on in your jersey, Ghana jersey. People were dying around that time, my brother. Press conferences won't desilt our gutters. Press conferences won't solve the problems of our poor drainage system. In fact, as Asensu stated, the Honorable Asensu Boachi stated, where the NDC used to have their headquarters, the Nima Paloma Odona drains, it was under the NPP that we clearly initiated and fixed that issue. We started that of the Buzia N1 highway, the drainage system. South Kaneshi started under the NPP. We, in fact, under the Gary project, we had secured funding and started the project. From January 2025 up to date, all we've been hearing, press conferences, committees, and today I'm surprised to see the Minister for Interior here. Because in the government's anti-flood task force, the Minister for Interior is not even part. So who is even managing the flood situation in our country? You put a deputy chief of staff with no compelling controlling role and mandate to coordinate two ministers, that of local government and that of works and housing, a deputy chief of staff. The Minister for Interior, in the midst of the crisis, appears before Parliament and speaking on behalf of a task force that is not even part. Mr. Speaker, I clearly believe that this is the time that we need leadership. Leadership is not a team sport. When you are elected to lead, you lead. This is not the time for settings, PR, bloggers, patrolling left, right, and center because government wants to score political points. We need answers, and we don't need a government that will pretend to be solving a problem, but then just using chopper to mock our misery. And lastly, we don't elect leaders to tell us our problems. We elect leaders to fix our problems. If President Mahama is tired, he can leave the position for somebody who is also ready to lead us to that promised land.
This is the minorities' position in respect to the happenings in our country. Ghanaians woke up yesterday to scenes that have become tragically familiar under this administration. Major parts of our national capital submerged, homes destroyed, livelihood washed away, and citizens stranded in the very city that houses the seat of government. This is not an isolated weather event. It is the predictable consequence of a government that talks about preparedness while doing nothing to deliver it. Today, we find ourselves a nation in mourning. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, before anything else is said, we must pause. Behind every flooded street and every submerged home is a family whose world has been upended overnight. Tonight, somewhere in this city, a mother is sitting by a hospital bed, holding the hand of a child she nearly lost. Tonight, somewhere else, a husband is searching for a wife who has not come home. Somewhere, a father is standing in the wreckage of a shop he built with his own two hands over 20 years, watching everything he worked for float away in brown water. These are not statistics. These are our people. Ghana is still counting on its losses, and we fear that what we know today is only a fraction of what we still come to learn in the days ahead. To the families who have lost loved ones, to those keeping vigil beside hospital beds, not knowing whether their relatives will recover, to the traders and artisans and ordinary working Ghanaians who have lost everything they spent a lifetime building, we, the NPP minority, feel your pain. We are your neighbors, your relatives, your constituent too, and your grief is our grief. We hold you in our prayers tonight and in the days to come. But our compassion does not end with words of comfort. We make this solemn promise to every Ghanaian touched by this tragedy. We, the mighty minority, will use every tool of accountability available to us, both within this house and beyond it, to ensure that those whose negligence contributed to this disaster answer for it. Your losses deserve more than sympathy. It deserves justice, and the minority will not rest until you have it. Now let me go back to the task force that existed on paper and on paper alone. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, last year, His Excellency the President announced the establishment of an anti-flood task force, specifically charged with preparing the capital for the rainy season, chaired by his Deputy Chief of Staff in charge of operations, Mr. Stan Jose Dogwe. The public was assured that lessons had been learned and that the year would be different. Yesterday's flooding is the clearest evidence that this task force produced no meaningful intervention on the ground. If serious drainage works, the silting or flood mitigation infrastructure had been undertaken, the impact of the rains, however heavy, would have been measurably reduced. Instead, entire neighborhoods went underwater, exposing the gap between government rhetoric and government delivery. Now we see a pattern, not an accident. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, this was not the first flooding incident of the year. Weeks earlier, significant parts of Accra were already inundated at a time when the president was out of the country on an official visit that took him through the United Kingdom and Belarus. On his return, rather than point to work already completed by the task force, the president called for a fresh presentation and mapping of affected areas. The government that had genuinely prepared for the rains would not need to commission a new assessment after the damage had already been done. The need for an after-the-fact presentation is itself an admission that no adequate plan existed beforehand. Sanitation policy without a plan. We note that this government has announced a sanitation policy without a plan. Compounding the crisis is the government's decision not to renew waste management contracts with some contractors, following concerns raised about the term of these contracts. The minority does not dispute that public purse must be protected from poorly structured agreements. However, terminating or declining to renew a major waste collection arrangement without first putting in place credible alternatives has consequences. In the resulting vacuum, informal and unregulated waste collectors, commonly referred to as aboboya operators, have proliferated. There is documented video evidence of such operators dumping refuse directly into gutters and drains. Blocked drainage systems are a direct and significant contributor to urban flooding. A government cannot dismantle a sanitation system without securing its replacement, then act surprised when the resulting refuse chokes the city's drains. Rainfall is not an excuse for the absence of a plan. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, the president stated yesterday that approximately 140 millimeters of rain fell on Accra, compared to a higher single-day figure of about 56 millimeters recorded last year, and argued that this is, quote, beyond our control, end quote, while pointing instead to human behavior, including structured builds in waterways. The minority does not dispute that rainfall intensity is a climate reality outside government's control. But that is precisely why preparedness matters most in years of extreme rainfall, not least in them. A competent administration plans for the worst case scenario, not the average one. Ghana's meteorological agencies issue seasonal forecasts every year, and a task force was specifically constituted months ago to prepare the capital for exactly this kind of event. If, by the government's own admission, human encroachment on waterways is a known and long-standing contributor to flooding, then a task force that had been doing its job would have addressed that risk well before the rains arrived, not have it cited today as an explanation after the damage is done. The president cannot simultaneously claim that human behavior drove this disaster and that this government bears no responsibility for failing to act on a risk it knew about and was specifically tasked to manage. Now we need accountability. Government must account to the people and not give excuses. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, we the minority submit that government cannot simultaneously claim to have prepared for the floods and then be caught needing fresh maps and fresh presentations once disaster strikes. It cannot dismantle an existing waste management arrangement without a replacement and then point to clogged drains as a natural disaster rather than a policy failure. The people of Accra deserve a government that plans ahead, not one that manages crisis after they have already destroyed homes and livelihood. A call for parliamentary inquiry. We contend that given the scale of this failure, statement of regret and after the fact relief packages are not sufficient. The minority is calling on this House to establish a parliamentary committee specifically mandated to investigate the conduct of the flood preparedness task force and the relevant government ministries and agencies in the lead up to this disaster. That inquiry must establish what work, if any, the task force undertook since its establishment, what funds were allocated to it, and how they were spent, what specific mitigation measures were planned and implemented, and why none of this prevented or meaningfully reduced the impact of foreseeable seasonal flooding. Those found responsible for negligence or dereliction of duty must be held accountable. Pending the outcome of this inquiry, the minority demands that all members of the task force step aside from their roles. This is not a presumption of guilt. It is a basic standard accountability that any institution facing serious questions over its conduct should observe, so that the investigation can proceed without interference and so that those under scrutiny are not left to oversee the very response to a crisis their own inaction may have worsened. This House owes the people of Accra nothing less than a full and honest accounting of what went wrong and who was responsible. Now, a warning from history the NDC has refused to heed. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, Ghanaians do not need to be reminded twice of what happens when flooding in this city is met with government complacency. On the 9th of June 3rd, 2015, under an NDC administration, with President John Dramani Mahama as its head, floodwaters at Kwame Nkrumah Circle mixed with leaking fuel at a gold filling station and ignited, killing an estimated 150 people in one of the deadliest peacetime disasters in Ghana's history. A subsequent investigation found that the flooding itself was a remote cause and recommended urgent dredging and the silting of the Addo River and its tributaries to prevent a reoccurrence. Successive governments share responsibility for the slow pace of implementing those recommendations. But it is this NDC administration, having returned to office, promising a fresh start and having specifically constituted a task force this year to prepare the capital for the rain, that bears responsibility for the renewed flooding in the very same Addo corridor at the Braka, Odona, and the Kwame Nkrumah Circle enclave this week. This time, the disaster was again accompanied by fire. A blaze broke out at Odona Rubber Market near Kwame Nkrumah Circle, just meters from the site of the 2015 tragedy, as floodwaters submerged the surrounding areas. Fire crews managed to contain the blaze without loss of lives, and for that the minority commenced Ghana National Fire Service. But the fact that Accra came this close in the same neighborhood to a repeat of June 3rd is not a coincidence. It is a direct consequence of a government once again led by President Mahama and the NDC that has failed for over a decade to act decisively on the lessons of its own worst disaster. The minority will not allow this government and its new team of advisors and task force officials to preside over a replay of the scenes of June 3rd, 2015. Ghana paid too high a price that night to watch history repeat itself through nothing more than official negligence. Now, a public health emergency in the making. Flooding of this scale carries a public health dimension that cannot be left unaddressed. And our respected colleague Nana Ayu Efriye raised this on the House floor. Stagnant flood water mixed with uncollected refuse and overflowing sanitation facilities create conditions for the rapid spread of communicable diseases, including cholera, typhoid, and other waterborne and vector-borne illnesses. The minority is therefore pressing for an urgent and substantive briefing to this House by the Minister for Health, setting out precisely what steps are being taken to monitor affected communities for early signs of disease outbreak, what emergency sanitation, clean water, and medical supplies have been deployed to flood-hit areas, and what surveillance and rapid response systems are in place should an outbreak occur. This briefing must happen without delay. The country cannot afford a public health crisis compounding a disaster that was itself avoidable. Now, let me deal with complacency by another name, Galamsey and the Gold Board connection. The government negligence on flooding cannot be separated from its broader record on environmental governance. And nowhere is that record more damning than on Galamsey. The president and senior figures in this administration campaigned explicitly on a promise to end illegal mining, with some of their own officials while in opposition, claiming the menace could be eliminated within weeks of taking office. Nearly 2 years into this government, that promise lies in ruins. Illegal mining has continued to expand. Rivers and water bodies central to Ghana's drainage and irrigation systems have been further degraded, and forest cover that once absorbed rainfall and reduced runoff continues to disappear. Far from confronting this crisis, government policy has entrenched it. The Bank of Ghana's Gold for Reserves program and the establishment of Gold Board as both regulator and the dominant commercial buyer for gold have created a structure in which the state itself has become guaranteed market for gold of uncertain origin, including credible voices both within and outside parliament have warned gold sourced from illegal operations. When the body charged with sanitizing the gold trade cannot reliably distinguish legally mined gold from Galamsey gold and yet continues to expand its purchasing target, it is not fighting illegal mining, it is financing it. This is not a side issue to the flooding crisis. Illegal mining destroys the very watersheds, wetlands, and river systems that would otherwise absorb and channel rainfall away from our cities and farmlands. A government that subsidizes the destruction of these natural defenses with one hand cannot credibly claim with the other that this year's flooding was simply an act of nature. The minority holds the government fully accountable for Galamsey policy that, contrary to its own campaign promise, is compounding the very disaster it now claims to be responding to. Support for victims without absorbing government. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, the presidency announced the release of 300 million from the contingency fund, split evenly between urgent relief for flood-affected persons and communities, that is 150 million for them, and flood mitigation measures, 150 million, alongside the deployment of Ghana Armed Forces and police to support NADMO in rescue and relief operations. The minority welcomes this relief and will not stand in the way of support reaching affected Ghanaians. But relief after the fact, however large, is not a substitute for the prevention that was promised months ago and never delivered. An aerial tour of the devastation today does not undo the absence of a functioning plan before the rains came. Compassion for the victims of this crisis and accountability for the government that failed to prevent it are not mutually exclusive. Both are necessary, and the minority insists on both. The minority demands detailed, itemized reporting to this House on how the full 300 million will be disbursed and spent, broken down by recipient community, project, and contractor where applicable, together with documentary evidence of full compliance with the Public Financial Management Act and all other applicable transparency and procurement requirements. This reporting must distinguish clearly between the 150 million allocated to direct relief and the 150 million allocated to mitigation works, with regular progress updates to Parliament under the funds are fully accounted for. We, the mighty minority, will also be seeking full transparency and parliamentary oversight on how the 150 million mitigation allocation is spent, given that an earlier task force established for the very same purpose has yet to account for its own use of public resources. Ghanaians have seen too many large contingency disbursements announced with fanfare and never properly accounted for. This must not be another one. The NDC government is known for its optical settings instead of doing the real work. Critically, this disbursement must not be confined to Accra alone. Flooding in recent weeks has also affected communities in Western, Central, Eastern, Volta, and Ashanti regions. And the minority insists that the 350 million package be applied equitably across all affected regions, not concentrated solely on the national capital because it draws the most media attention. Government must publish a full breakdown of relief and mitigation spending by region so that flood-hit Ghanaians outside Accra are not left behind simply because their suffering received less television coverage. Our flag bearer's message to the nation: whilst government grapples with the consequences of its own failures, our flag bearer, Dr. Mahama, has spoken directly to the suffering of ordinary Ghanaians. Yesterday, he issued a statement of sympathy and solidarity with flood victims. Today, he has walked the talk. He has gone further, personally touring the hard-hit areas of Accra to assess the situation on the ground and stand directly with affected communities. In his statement issued yesterday morning, he said, quote, "This morning, my thoughts and prayers are with the thousands of people affected by the flood. My deepest sympathies to those who have lost their loved ones, properties, and those who have been forced out of their homes. I urge citizens to comply with all directives issued by the government and to cooperate fully with institutions mandated to address the situation. I also urge the emergency services and all relevant authorities to do everything possible to reach those in need and assist them. We will get through this difficult time by caring for one another. God bless our homeland, Ghana." End quote. This is the tone of leadership Ghana needs in a moment of crisis. Solidarity with victims, a call for citizens to cooperate with relief efforts, and an appeal to national unity without losing sight of the human cost of this disaster. It stands as a reminder that holding government accountable for its failures and standing with the Ghanaian people in their hour of need are not contradictory. They are both part of the same patriotic duty. Thank you very much indeed.
After this, NPP demand accountability from NDC for of what? Dear one. Person no me no ko share video ni ba. Enkoma ekoso and someone sika sa na ede ho senka ade we nkomo de beye e no mo firi aban mu 8 years NPP see ye beye 8 years. You see, it is something that we shouldn't joke with this. And I mean, person Nipa are losing their lives. Why would you do this to the people of Ghana? And the woman be a sabi. Tibonkosophobia, no more their cotton baby, no more their politics. Who the hell are you people? Samuel Hunto's and who is he? Where? Or no Samuel Hunton, where? Ah, this foolish guy. I don't want to use this words. To me, Kwatina TV station. No, I can't say we are seeing us and another down for the name Quakano. A no many of bread. What all bread will be or someone does when never since I brought to it. What why never send you to it? Be animal the year politics. Silly them. And then another down for the two. But John Dramani Mahama because of Yomabi or Becky Kai. And you may be a buying of a Ebekaye and somebody did to me every Ghana for and then when a mood just but we are all crying. Yina Yesu. Sebrebin a Sabi, Modia Mohunus Ayansano, and a Modia campaigner. This time around, we are all crying. But the moment person who had infantile, then when just said, friend was some more TV Sua Namokan. Yambusa, Yamibusa said, Ubincham Yadebaqua, John Dramani Mahama NDCs for the campaign and battle, or mobile, or my pepe. Sa flood in way. Muhuni answer the campaign. But they do one equity say in a year's boom. But the money to me, and the money side and moon to me. Why did you come take over? I don't know about you. So what are so putting blames on people? Why did you come for the seat? Why did you take over? It doesn't make sense. As at now, what are so blaming? What are so blaming? And you would have got work. Obey blaming NPP by. Like how? NPP buy na sabi. We who say nyansa na nya intend this for switch me. Pacho te mekasa say NPP buy na sabi. Omunya sa adwene no amfa ya sa adwene pacho intend this for switch me. Modi campaign te say dey asa modi moye. Bedende eko sensi na Yesu. Mekasa mekasa kwetu hands ma mekabere busu ma mfonsia. Hi, Smart Africa Media. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and have a sign, share my from channels. We need to betende. Adenwa akoso no nkrofo. But I'm for unsia. Yanko comment section yanko kudi nkomo. Hi, Smart Africa Media. Mdi Addo de man ko ba na ko 40 TV. Wada roma. Mekasa ko so la facha me.